Yo guys, what's good? Ase once again with another Exos series video, and today we're talking about the core reverse for Brook. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so from tomorrow on until next week Monday, we will have the chance to get Brook in the enhanced chances. So Brook got a pretty, I would say, massive rework that lets you do some amazing things if it works how I think it does. So let's quickly go over it. Angry Lamb: if the caster has a removable buff recovery positive effects applied, attacks together with an ally when the ally attacks once every turn. Then his S1, now 2 mana cost, and deals 225% damage to a single enemy, and it resets when the target dies. The turn resets. And lastly, a 4 mana burst, 750% damage to a single target, same as Rudley, and the base stats of Brook are actually fairly comparable to Rudley, so you can expect the same damage, if not even more, because the FC also tacks on some damage. So pretty good ability. Now, before getting into the passive, I want to get into this turn reset quickly. So what does it mean in general? With the new mana gain, every turn you get with a unit is potential mana. And with a turn reset like this, you can basically grant your row that Brook is one another mana, which is huge, especially if you are not necessarily running with a mana battery or something else. Usually this turn reset doesn't come into play that often because, yeah, you basically need to be in a position where the unit that you're attacking dies while it's your unit's turn. However, with the passive, I try to come up with some scenarios. Probably one of the best working scenarios is with either one of the Summer Blessing units that will give you a positive effect, or something like Yao with her buff effect, Rachel with the buff effect. Pretty amazing. So the removable, I don't know if it just means removable buff and a recovery and positive effects, or if it means a removable buff, a removable recovery, and removable positive effects. So there's two scenarios how this can turn out. If it means that it's just a removable buff and a recovery and positive effects, you could end up with like this permanently on your hero depending on how it counts. If it counts something like marks, because they are technically positive effects, like tranquil, command marks, something like this, it would be crazy. So I believe it doesn't work like this. However, what I believe is that stuff like FC Annie's effect, when Rudley gives you the health bonus and all that stuff, those things are probably counted as positive effects, while the marks, like these permanent abilities, don't really apply. I'm not sure of that, however, so please, I don't have the FC for Brook. If you can test it out once it gets released, and let us know in the comments, it would be highly appreciated. Otherwise, I have to wait until I see somebody who actually has Brook as the FC. I would really like to see that it doesn't affect, like that it doesn't work in conjunction with marks, because that would be a little bit too powerful, but that it interacts with something like FC Annie's positive effects. They currently cannot be removed. I'm really unsure about the wording. Anyway, this can be huge, because a lot of these positive effects, like for example Luke's share health, Yao's attack buff, or Rachel's attack buff, they last for quite a long time, like 8 to 16 turns depending on what kind of buff. And a usual rotation is 10 turns, as you guys know. If this can trigger every turn for this entire rotation of one round, That is pretty crazy, because this essentially means 1,000 additional damage passively. So this is really, really strong. I think this works also very well with the S1, because as I mentioned, like usually you need to whittle a unit down for you to be able to reset the turn, because it's not enough damage to one-shot somebody. But with this, you're basically whittling on them constantly, and you decide which unit you want to whittle on, because it attacks the same unit as your attack with your other unit. One thing that I'm not sure of is if this works, for example, the same way as Ortard or FC Rera works, where the additional damage is still applied on the same damage counter. So I wonder if this might actually bypass something like Tranquil. If it does, this is definitely a game changer. Because currently nothing bypasses Tranquil. You actually need to deal all the damage, have your unit retreat, and then attack again. So it has to be like different attacks. If this works like unit attacks, the damage is applied, then the passive procs, and then Brook attacks, that could be so huge. A really cool ability that I wish we had in this game for a long time, and now we actually have somebody who has that. It is a black FC, so this also makes it pretty good, as you just need 19 core mileage for him. And also the chances of something like the Exos pass or the monthly missions that you have can give you a Fate core, like the core Exos raid pass, not the regular Exos pass. They can give you some Fate cores, which could in turn lead to a high chance of Black Fate cores. So that is pretty good. I like that a Black Fate core gets a really, really strong, unique ability that makes sense for the current meta, for PvE, for PvP, because also in PvE, this is really strong. So before I tested Brook a little bit out into dragons, but he didn't do enough. However, with this, if you run with a Chati, with somebody who does continuous buffs that are stuck on there for a long time, this can help you go through phases 1 and 2. And if your units survive and you can reapply those buffs, this can be so strong, because it's again like additional 100% damage every turn, especially because he has a dragon scale of chaos. So not only for fire days but also for the weekends, this can be amazing. One last thing, breaking stones, he can take out a lot of stones. So basically, if you have any firestones on a unit, you have to be careful, because that guy, every time you attack with somebody, will remove stones. And since he is a legendary unit, he can be like transcended pretty quickly. You only need him to be like 2 or 3 and attack with 2 or 3 units on the side, and whatever unit you target, they will lose all the stones. This is pretty powerful in dragons where there's only a single target. This is pretty powerful in scenarios like PvE, especially if you're a newer player and you have trouble breaking the stones in some of the counter-attack phases, because yeah, they all have 2 stones and you might not have an element enhancement yet. This guy, if you pair him with for example Luke, because Luke does a buff in the fire faction, this can nuke things down. All in all, a really solid rework. I'm really looking forward to get this in the future to test it out by myself, but for now I have to wait. I don't have the zest to go for it, unfortunately. Again, if you play with it, let me know in the comments. I would love to see your reaction to it. Anyway, that's already it. I hope you enjoyed it, and if so, consider subscribing, helps me out a lot. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Until then, enjoy the grind.